This is the Scary Movie Clubcast.
Live from the clubhouse, it's Scary Movie Clubcast. This is Dahmer,
McKenzie,
Nadine,
and Amanda.
and tonight we watched The Babadook. Nadine, how would you rate this movie?
I really, really enjoyed it. I would give it 4.6 pop-up books out of 5.
I'm gonna go 3.5 out of 5 pop-up books.
I'm gonna go with a 3 out of 5 pop-up books. I really like it, but that child stresses me.
Well, I'm gonna go with 5 out of 5 pop-up books because it's my favorite scary movie of all time.
More than Creep?
Yeah. Well, it's like my favorite scary movie of like I feel like Creep is our favorite scary movie. Mm-hmm. Babadook is like my favorite scary movie.
You may have noticed that Megan's not with us tonight, and that's why I'm filling in for her.
Yay, Dahmer!
So today we're doing conspiracies. And we're going to start with Nadine and McKenzie.
So the conspiracy theory that we're doing is 9/11 conspiracy theories and Tanya Head conspiracy. Well, her story. It's not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 9/11 conspiracy theories. The main ones are divided into 3 categories, which is LIHOP, LIHOP, which is...
Enjoy.
It stands for Let It Happen on Purpose, which means key individuals within the government had at least some foreknowledge of the attacks and deliberately ignored it or actively weakened the United States defenses to ensure the hijacked flights were not intercepted. Or it's MIHOP, or Made It Happen on Purpose. Key individuals within the government planned the attacks and collaborated with or framed Al-Qaeda in carrying them out. There's a range of opinions about how that might have happened. The third category is others.
LIHOP, MIHOP, and others.
Others are those who reject the accepted account of the September 11 attacks. They're not proposing specific theories, but are trying to demonstrate that the U.S. government's account of the events is wrong.
Wait, quick question. Did you guys make up these
No.
acronyms are all yours, or these
No.
are pre-existing
These are
acronyms?
real.
These are the real acronyms that...
This is straight from the wiki page.
Yeah, this is...
Not to get too official on you, but...
The wiki page.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
dude. I mean, it's real.
I mean, I don't want to, throw my book learning in your face, but...
So these are the actual acronyms that people divide the three categories. Those are it. It's LIHOP, MIHOP, and other. So the main 9/11 conspiracy theory, besides the one Nadine's going to talk about that I'm going to mention, is the World Trade Center demolition theories, which I'm sure a lot of people, when they think 9/11 conspiracy theories, they think jet fuel can't melt steel beams. Mm-hmm. That's sort of the tagline, but I heard it said a ton in high school.
Can I ask you, when you say that, did a lot of people in your high school think that 9/11 was fake?
Yeah.
Generation gap.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's a meme.
That's just interesting.
It's a
On
meme.
the
It's a
internet.
meme.
The
Well,
whole-
yeah.
Yeah.
And, I know that, I was just wondering if people, a generation
think-
actually really felt that
I
way.
don't know if they genuinely
I think they
that.
don't really think about it at all. It's just
Yeah.
a meme, so
We
it's
don't
sort of like a
remember
funny...
9/11.
Yeah. I don't... I
Okay.
was 4 when 9/11 happened, so...
I was even younger.
Right.
I was
So
in
I
6th
think...
grade, so I remember well.
Yeah.
I was 2.
So I don't remember it. I just have heard a lot of stories of, what my parents did that day and, what my sisters, they were in high school, what they did that day. And so I think for Dahmer and I's generation, I guess, it's just kind of a meme. And so jet fuel can't melt steel beams meme
That hurts my heart to hear that 9/11's a meme.
I know. I think it's just a sense of, having no first-hand memory of it. It doesn't have the same punch, I guess, to some people.
Yeah, of course. It's like when people would tell Amanda and I about when JFK got shot, it's never, meme didn't exist and no one really made jokes about it, so I can't, relate in that sense, but I can definitely relate in the sense that, when I think of 9/11, I think of my day and how that day went and how the country felt right after and, all that stuff because I felt it, but when people talk about JFK, I'm just cool story. I'm trying to understand what you're saying, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I feel about 9/11. It's I've seen a lot of videos in school. We had moment of silences on the day, but I don't have any first-hand account. I don't remember that day. I'm sure I just ate my Cheerios and put my socks on. I was in, kindergarten. If that, I was in preschool, I think. Yeah, this theory came in existence, early advocates such as physicist Stephen E. Jones, architect Richard Gage, software engineer Jim Hoffman, theologian David Ray Griffin, and a bunch of Dutch demolition experts proposed that aircraft impacts and resulting fires could not have weakened the buildings sufficiently to initiate a catastrophic collapse, and that the buildings would not have collapsed completely, nor at the speeds that they did, without additional energy involved to weaken their structures. So, in essence, there's a lot of different offshoots of these theories, that the government planted bombs underneath the World Trade Center towers so that it would blow up, and, like, that's why the towers fell down the way they did, or, like, that maybe a mix of it getting, the planes hitting the buildings, or, you know, things like that. But the National Institute of Standards and Technology has rejected the theories completely, that photographs and videos from different angles show the collapse that initiated the collapsing of the buildings. Basically, in summary, that they say what happened was that the fires weakened the structures at certain points, which it didn't, like, melt the beams, but it weakened them enough to where they bent in, and the upper floors started collapsing down, which is why it does look like a demolition. There's obviously a lot of racially charged conspiracy theories that I just don't want to go into, but there are a lot. I think especially...
Like against Middle Easterns?
Yeah, against Israel, Jewish people, and Muslim people. There's, like, theories of the government plotting and planning these attacks and then blaming Al-Qaeda for them, or having spies, basically Israeli and Jewish spies, either on their side or our side, being part of the planting of things. There's a lot of theories about the Pentagon. There's theories about, my gosh, they get more and more ridiculous, but the no planes theory is like...
No planes?
Yeah, and in air quotes I'm saying the no planes theory. I mean, that is what the theory is called. It's really ridiculous.
Excuse me?
Basically...
An illusion.
Yeah, the point is,
The Earth
like...
is flat, Amanda.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of them are, like, they get really, like, a lot more and more far-fetched, but the no planes...
She's like, my Virgo brain is breaking.
No planes. How can you say there's no planes? A trick of the light.
So...
It was captured on film live. A trick of the light.
It basically, I know Dahmer's being silly, but a lot of it is they think it's digital construction of the planes. Basically, oh man, alright. I want to explain it to you, so I need you to take a deep breath because you're gonna freak out when I explain it all to you.
Yeah, it only gets worse from here.
Oh my god.
It doesn't make more sense. So part of the no planes theory is that a former chief economist within the Labor Department under the Bush administration claims it's physically impossible that the Boeing planes could have penetrated the steel frames of the towers. And basically, all the video footage that we have of 9/11, it was either digitally constructed in or that it was missiles with holograms.
There
So...
were people there on the ground.
I know. Yeah.
Millions of them.
When
New York has millions
parts
of
in the
people.
rubble.
Yes.
This is the dumbest man on the planet.
So it's watch footage frame by frame, and you will see a cigar-shaped missile hitting the World
gosh.
Trade Center. Most no planes, conspiracy theorists say either the CGI of a passenger plane was overlaid onto a winged cruise missile or military aircraft, that computer-generated images were inserted on the video footage, and plane-shaped explosive cutouts were planted in the buildings in order to create the impression of plane impact. So...
Not to mention all the people who lost family members on those planes.
Wait.
Build a
There's an
colony on the
explanation
moon
for
and then
that.
just put all these idiots there because I don't want to deal with these. The moon doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
it's true.
Amanda's really
Yes,
struggling
okay.
right now.
My blood is like boiling.
sorry, before I talk about that, most conspiracy theory websites in relation to 9/11 conspiracy theories have banned the no planes theory things. Some of them they've just like banned mention of.
I mean, makes sense because it's the
Yeah.
dumbest thing I've ever
Because
heard
if
in my
you're gonna
entire
have
life.
like conspiracy theories and you want people to be in your conspiracy theories, probably like the really dumb ones. You need to just filter those out.
They're like, we're official websites.
Sorry, this is official conspiracy theories of 9/11. Sorry.
Only professional crackpots here.
Yeah. Sorry. We are gold-plated platinum crackpot members, and you are a neighborhood junkie. With the Pentagon attack, there was this conspiracy theory that was in France that some French person wrote this book about 9/11 conspiracies and said that how does a plane 125 feet wide and 155 feet long fit into a hole which is only 60 feet across? Saying that the impact hole of the Pentagon one was only 60 feet across.
Mhm.
When released, the book was heavily criticized by both the mainstream French and American press. Like, it was just... Pretty much everyone barred it as, like, this very wild interpretation of conspiracies.
I know you probably don't have the answer to this, but there was this book self-published?
All I'm imagining is the French press being like, suck me blue!
There's a lot of missile theories, too. With the 9/11 attacks, obviously, no plane theories, missiles. And that the Pentagon was a missile.
Do they have an explanation for
All
the
the plane
families
parts? Yes.
of the people who were on the plane who
Yeah.
died?
Yes, they do. I'm going to share it with you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
That's fine.
obviously, there's a lot of evidence that planes were involved in the 9/11 attacks.
Yeah.
Because we know that there were planes involved in every part of the 9/11 attacks. World Trade Center, Pentagon, and Flight 93, the 4 planes. So... we know there's a lot of debris. One of the biggest one being the black boxes, which are like the recordings on board that are like on every flight. Every plane has a black box. And so that's like a hard one for people to kind of conspiracy theorize around because there's a ton of debris, especially around the Pentagon and Flight 93. Like the towers, there's a lot of like metal and debris but the Pentagon and Flight 93, it's more like contained, you know? There's tons of eyewitnesses. There's people calling family members while they're on the planes, like letting them know that the planes have been hijacked and like that they're gonna die probably. And then, yeah, it's horrible. It was awful. So, for example, passenger Renee May called her mother to tell her that the plane had been hijacked and that the passengers had been herded to the back of the plane. Another passenger named Barbara Olson called her husband and said that the flight had been hijacked and that the hijackers had knives and box cutters. Some conspiracy theories say that the phone calls the passengers made were fabricated by voice morphing, the passengers' bodies disposed of, and a missile fired at the Pentagon. So basically, conspiracy theorists will kind of cover the part that we all know, all the recordings we have of people calling their loved ones saying goodbye, and all of the black box evidence that we have of people saying the plane's going down, saying that it's fake, that it's voice morphing or crisis actors, and that any bodies were disposed of. A lot of it is like missiles fired from the government at its people. Nadine and I had this conversation earlier about 9/11 conspiracy theories and like why the traction that they've gained now versus later, and about how after 9/11 the country was united like never before versus more recently the country's been super divided. So I think it's an interesting thing that like a generation away could be much more willing to believe certain conspiracy theories against the government.
I wouldn't say that though, because people have always distrusted the government. I would just say that when 9/11 happened, it was a unifying tragedy in the country. And so at that point, people were not questioning the government because everyone was just coming together. At least was the feel for me. I was only a child.
The trauma and the tragedy was too fresh.
Yeah.
For people to be like, the government faked this. So you
Exactly.
gotta give the wound a little time to heal.
Yeah.
People were having funerals for those people that now they're trying to say, those people were never even on the, like, it's all fake.
That call you received from your daughter right before she died, not real.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like most of the theories, but another interesting 9/11 related story that Nadine is going to talk about is this woman. So Nadine, we'll take it away.
Alright, so Tanya Head, as they knew her, she came to the U.S. in 2003. She formed a support group for 9/11 survivors that the person who was in charge of the World Trade Center Survivors Network then heard about through, like, word of mouth, because she had just kind of formed it, and then they started communicating over email, and eventually they merged the two groups. That way they could all be there and support each other. She becomes very close with everyone in that group. She donates her own money and so much of her time to, like, try to help them, because at that point, the survivors had not gotten to go to Ground Zero. That was an important part of closure, I think, for a lot of them, was to be there, because so many of them were suffering from survivor's guilt. And she put in a lot of effort to, like, get them to be able to go. And she was on one of the first, like, tours of Ground Zero. Twist. She is a woman from Spain, and her actual name is Alicia Estavehead. And she had never been to the U.S. before 2003. So she, what we're talking about is September 11th, 2001. So she had never even been in the country at the time when this happened. When 9/11 happened, she was in business school in Barcelona. So she eventually became the president of the World Trade Center Survivors Network through everything that she was doing. And basically, her story was that she was in the South Tower and she was on the 78th floor when the plane hit. This is also a big deal for her to say, because that makes her one of only, like, 19 people to have survived at or above the point of impact.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was like, I'm gonna go. I might as well go big.
Yeah.
So, that's really crazy.
I'm going to look at the timeline of events, but the North Tower, which was the first one hit, collapses 1 hour and 42 minutes after the impact.
Yeah, so during that time,
So
they
during
are
that
rescuing.
time is when they're trying to get as many people possible.
They're still rescuing when that happens. Because, of course, we have no idea.
I just assumed that
It all kind of came down at once.
According to her story, she was on the 78th floor. She said that she literally saw the plane hit and witnessed her assistant being beheaded by, like, the
wing.
Man,
the
she
wing
was
or the
going
propeller.
big
She
when
was
she
like, I don't know what to tell you. If I'm doing it big.
She's like, I watched Final Destination. I know how to make a good story. Come on.
Yeah,
She could spin a yarn. So once she sees her assistant get beheaded, she starts to, like, try to get out, but she catches on fire and, like, basically passes out. She then wakes up to a man who was wearing a red bandana and was putting out the fire on her, and then he supposedly carries her the 78 floors down, and she, like, passes out. Oh, and in between this, before she passes out, she finds a man who begs her to give his wedding ring to his wife.
Whoa, this lady's going big.
She was like, what am I supposed to do?
She's like, I mean, I can't just be a damsel in distress. I also have to be a hero in some respect.
Yeah.
She has a huge scar on her arm.
Uh-huh.
So, like, no one questions.
Like, sounds like she's got a big burn on her
Yeah.
arm. Interesting.
No, because she's a pathological liar. So I know a bunch of stories of how she could have gotten it.
I'm so curious.
She probably freaking burned herself.
Well, no, I do think that it was just, like, probably a house fire, would be my guess. But she said, one of her stories was that she was riding with her boyfriend in his Ferrari, and they got into an accident.
Crazy.
She was
no Ferrari.
It was a terrible horse riding accident with my pony. Like,
My
pony was on fire.
But yeah, those were some of the stories that she told. So yeah, so she says that this red bandana man, like, carries her down. Twist, the red bandana man is a real thing. He is a sweet baby angel. Yeah, she didn't even bring him up until later, like, until other people started bringing him up. She could have done more research. She never expected her lie to get this big. She never expected to become president of the Survivors Network. Like, that becomes clear. Okay, so his name was Wells Crowther. He's a 24-year-old volunteer for the fire department who worked in the towers. He basically, like, when it hit, he starts rescuing people as best as he can, and a bunch of people have stories of, like, this man who was wearing a red bandana saved me. His parents didn't even know this because I think it was like for one of the anniversaries that the New York Times tried to, like, compile a bunch of people's stories and, like, basically clear up, like, the amount of time before it fell. it was his mom who was, like, reading in all those stories, and then when she saw someone mention a red bandana, she was like, calling to her husband, she was like, I found Wells! Because they had given him a red bandana when he was, like, 7, and he always carried it with him. It was always in his back pocket. And he put it around his mouth when he was saving people because of all and he saved a bunch of people.
Sorry, was it mentioned? Did he die?
Yeah, he did die. So Tanya goes out to lunch or something with them because she is in that story mentioning him, and so they reach out to her because they want to know any stories, as much detail as they can, and like see anyone who
baby boy.
Yeah, and about his last little bits of time. She goes out to eat with them, and she tells the story so passionately, like, they're like, oh, it was so sweet, like, filled with so much emotion, and then she's like, I'm gonna bring you guys, like, a little plaque with a piece of the clothing that he, like, put out that was on me, that one of the last things he touched before he died.
This woman.
She's horrible. She's like another level of horrible.
Why does she keep building on it?
I know.
I don't understand people like this.
Now, her story gets even better. So, like, that was just her rescue story. Her story was so tragic. Her fiancé was in the other tower.
Stop it. Oh,
It was so sad.
Amanda
Dave,
is so
Tanya.
offended.
Big Dave.
I am. She's a bad person.
Well, it is offensive.
She's a pathological liar. But continue. What was her fiance?
Oh, yeah, Dave. So he died in the other tower. And, man, it just kills me when she talks about him, because when she talks about the meeting, that's a story too. That's, like, wild. And she says that
She doesn't do things small.
No, she doesn't.
had a Ferrari.
She gave them a real meet cute. She said that they, like, both went for the same taxi, and then he was like, I guess I'll let you have it, but here's my business card, you have to call me. And she was like, I don't know, and, like, threw it away, and then just ran into him at work.
She just watched Serendipity and then was like,
No. It gets even more. So, like...
A New York City love story.
So then she did that, and then she also tells this story where it's, like, the story of him proposing. Oh, and also they, like, supposedly lived together and had a dog, a golden retriever named Elvis. The dog also does not exist.
of course not.
She comes home one day, and he's got, like, a whole cute setup in the house, and then she comes in, and he's wearing, like, a grass skirt and, like, doing a hula, and he's like, let's get Mauied.
Oh.
Can I just say, both of these things are from Sex and the City. Both of them. And I double-checked to make sure when the Maui episode aired, and it was within enough time that she could have.
She definitely has watched.
Like, she's a Sex and the City fan. She's a Sex and the City girl.
And no one picked this up. No one was like, that's...
I would have, immediately. If I was there, I would have been like,
It's true,
why have
maybe.
2 things from Sex and the City happen to you? I would also pick this up if you tried to do 30 Rock. Those episodes came out after 9/11, but before her story.
Whoa.
Yeah, so she straight stole these stories. She
From a very famous series that
set in
people
New York
just
City.
watched. Like, I don't know how no one was like, that's weird. Alright, so she grew up in Barcelona with a pretty well-off family, but her brother and dad were arrested because they were put in jail for fraud. 24 million euro state fraud.
Wow.
That's not a little. That's not a little petty
So,
crime.
fibbing runs in the family. So the New York Times is the one that found out about her lie, and it was like 6 years after she had started the lie. No one had ever asked her or wanted to talk to or meet her fiance or her assistant's family. So when they finally asked about it, she was just basically like, you got me. Like, I mean, she didn't say that, but she just stopped returning their calls and was like, no one speak to them. And, like, certain people in the group were like, I don't have anything to hide. Like, I'm not gonna not speak to them. That's weird. But most of the people in the group were like, I can't believe you're attacking Tanya. Which I get, because, I mean, you know, if someone says something, you believe it.
Yeah.
Right, and you're like...
Especially when it's something so horrible.
They're like, she also lived through this horrific event,
Yeah.
and now you guys are attacking her. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, there was this one guy, and I thought this story was funny and also very believable. It's not like haha funny. But he, at one point, she said something and he thought it was a little weird, and he started to question her, and he was like, what was Dave's last name? And she gave him a last name, and he went to look, and there was someone who worked there who died, whose name was that. And so he was like, oh, okay. And then he, like, felt really guilty, and he was like, man, I can't believe I doubted her. I can't believe I, like, looked this up.
Was it, so do you know if she had, like, looked for someone with that name and was like, that was my fiance? Or do you think she was just, like, got lucky? It was just like, Dave, Smith.
I don't know for sure, but I think that she just got lucky.
You
because Dave
think?
is a common name.
Yeah, but a
Yeah.
last name is
So
hard.
many people
That's
were
not that
working
hard.
there.
You Smith.
Well,
White,
if you use a
Jones,
name like Smith
Jones.
Jones.
And we don't know his last name because they won't give it out because, you know, it's
There's
not
a
right
real-
there's an actual man.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was a victim and his family, and so it's just not right. Oh, also, she told everyone that she had gone to Stanford and then Harvard.
Oh, so she's making herself to be real smart too.
Yeah, she's like, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Say I didn't. What am I supposed to do? Tell the
I'm
truth?
a hero, and I'm smart.
Also, one of the princes of England proposed to me, but I said no.
One time I turned down the Prince of Switzerland, but that's another story.
Basically, when the Times starts doing that, everything comes crumbling down because there's nothing to substantiate her stuff. They reach out to Dave's family. They're like, no. They're like, he wasn't dating anyone. He had a roommate who was a guy and didn't have any dog, and we've never heard of this woman. And so it all came crumbling down. She got ousted as the president of the Survivors Network, you know, like you do.
Yeah,
And-
you're not a survivor. You don't get to be president.
Yeah, and she essentially, like, returned to Spain in shame. She immediately, like, retained the services of a lawyer, which was honestly unnecessary, because she hadn't actually done anything illegal. It's the real truth. Isn't
Just
that crazy to think of?
That is insane.
So then, after she's been ousted, she goes, in February of 2008, an anonymous email comes to the survivors group saying that she's committed suicide. The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
It was a lie!
It was a lie.
Oh my gosh. She does not stop.
There was this guy who she had, like, done interviews with or something. Anyway, she runs into him in New York. Because she came back to New York.
And he's like, excuse me?
Well, it's just rude, too, because she came back, like, for the 10-year anniversary, basically.
Oh,
Girl.
And he was very offended. He was like, how dare you show your face here? She founded David's Children Foundation in memory of Dave.
Stop it.
But that was something that she only said that she did. It
Oh,
never
so she
even
never
existed.
actually did it.
No, she never even
She was
created
just like,
it.
make up this fake
She was like,
organization.
I make
to brag.
charities. Yeah. Okay, this is just a quote from something that I had. It says, a colleague said Miss Head had turned up for the last 3 anniversaries at Ground Zero to place a small replica of a yellow cab and flowers there in honor of Dave and how they met.
What in the world?
She and Dave were going to get married in October. Only a month away.
To make it more tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, I personally mostly feel bad for this woman because I think that everyone that lied about it is a jerk, but I think that the people who lied about it for gain are much worse.
It's like the original Catfish documentary.
Yeah.
Well, except for I feel like that was more of a nefarious lie. To me, it feels like.
I mean, it feels the same to me. She just wanted attention,
Mm-hmm.
and then she got it and got crazy with it.
Yeah, but she didn't do anything good for Eve. This woman did good stuff for these people.
Because it got her more. Each
I
good
don't
deed
really
came with a little
feel.
bit more attention and admiration from other people.
I don't
That
really
is
feel
true.
bad for Tanya Head. I'm sad that she has to be sad, but at the same time, it's like, I just think she could have done as much good as an ally rather than pretending.
And I think that the people who really looked up to her and went, she's helped me so much, I think the betrayal of finding out that she was lying about it the whole time would probably put them back a lot.
What she did was wrong. It just
Yes.
flat out was. But as far as liars go, there are
it's like-
definitely worse ones.
Okay, well, thank you, Nadine and McKenzie. That was crazy.
Yeah, illuminating.
Yeah.
Okay, and now it's Amanda and I's turn. You want to start, Amanda?
Yeah, so this is an ancient conspiracy, the pseudo Nero conspiracy.
Mm.
And you might be saying, Nero, who dat?
I am saying that.
So Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, man's got a lot of names, was a Roman emperor from 54 to 68 AD. And if that still means nothing to you, well, I don't blame you. But many people may be familiar with the saying, Nero fiddled while Rome burned. And if you still got nothing, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't have anything.
Well, you're about to learn today.
Okay.
If you couldn't tell from that saying, Nero was, according to some scholars, particularly contemporary ones, was really unpopular, coming to power at the ripe old age of 16.
Oh, ancient, really.
That's who I want ruling my life.
Uh-huh,
A 16-year-old boy.
yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
But those early years were were mostly ruled by his mom, Agrippina the Younger. Yeah, he has, 5 names? And she has 1. But she ran things for the most part. But for reasons that are mostly unknown, he had his mom off.
Oh.
Yeah. Some say it was because she didn't approve of the affair he was having.
He was 16.
He was like, Mom, you're ruining my life!
This is a few years later.
Okay.
This wasn't 16, a few months later. Mom!
Yeah, I think he was 19 when he had her killed.
Oh, that's a lot better, yeah. That's acceptable.
Yeah, he's old.
You're as mature as you're gonna get.
Yeah, so some say it was because his mother didn't approve of the affair he was having with a married woman. He was also married at the time. Yeah, his mom really liked his wife, but most agree that didn't make sense for him to have done it, to have killed her for that purpose, because it wasn't until many years later that he winds up marrying the girl he has an affair with.
Rude. Keeping her as a side piece for years.
Mm-hmm. I personally think it's because his mom was a little bit power hungry. Tried to have him killed before he...
Tip for dad.
Yeah. She tried to have him killed, and so he exiled her for it, and then, I guess had her killed later.
Man, wouldn't it be nice to have the power to exile someone?
Yeah, really.
Mm-hmm.
I love the sound
I
of that.
can already think of a few people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different accounts of how his mom came to be dead. Great phrasing, I know.
And on my tombstone, just write Nadine came to be dead by, and then whatever killed me.
But so my favorite one is that Nero had Anicetus arrange a shipwreck, which Agrippina survived and was able to swim to shore, only to be executed by the guy, and then he reported her death as a suicide.
Whoa.
Ancient Rome was basically a straight up soap opera. It is wild. Some of the things I've read. And not to mention, Nero just didn't make great choices. According to some accounts, this is what I wrote, Nero, after he killed his mom, went full Joffrey. Just became awful. I think it's mostly according to ancient scholars, just of his time, just did not like him. One of the things that was really an unpopular move he did was he stopped listening to the Senate, and he was spending all the money. Oh, and another thing that was a very unpopular move that he did, he said that his wife, Octavia, was infertile, so he had her banished. And then the public was like...
He's getting exile happy.
Yeah. So the public was like, no, you can't do that.
Wait.
We like her.
Okay, is this the same, girl who he kept as a side chick for years?
This is the
finally
first
married?
one. The first wife.
This is the wife he cheated on.
This is his first wife. The girl who was the side chick was going to be his second wife.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. He has her banished, and the public are like, whoa, no dude. Fine, she had an affair. Kill her. So he has her executed.
Sad.
19-year-old boys be crazy.
And then, apparently, this was very confusing to me when I read it. I think it might have been, as a joke he did it. I don't know how serious he was. But, after he had her executed, he decided to marry a man. And he made himself the bride.
Oh, I like him.
This doesn't
I
sound
thought
like a
that
joke.
thought that was after his second wife, but
It might have been.
Well, I like
it
this
was
phase of his life.
unclear.
people were like,
Yeah,
I don't like
not a
that.
popular move.
I mean, he was going through something. I like this period of his life.
It also kind of
Little
sounds like
guy.
he was drunk at a party and did it.
Okay.
From what I read. Put it on a veil and was like, oh, we're really married. That's what it made it sound
That
like.
could be a joke.
Yeah, man, I wish I could see it. I
I
wish I was
mean,
there.
Isn't
yeah.
It's ancient Rome, yeah? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
they were
They-
pretty gay.
Yes.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, but they were still not cool with the emperor saying he was married to a dude and then being like, I'm the bride!
But yeah, you can't have any heirs that way.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. You can only have that for fun times. You can't be married.
Yeah, that's your side piece.
That's your side piece.
Very sad.
A hot Roman guy.
Mm.
Ooh, I like it. Mama likey.
Oh,
I wanted to take the comfort level.
that will chase you forever.
I wanted to take the comfort level from here to the ground.
We're going
I
to
wanted
take,
us to be uncomfortable.
We're going to take that soundbite and turn it into all of our ringtones.
Okay.
For when you call.
Okay.
Mama like.
Mama likey.
Yeah, so so you think that he married the other girl before he
Yeah.
declared his marriage to this other
Yeah.
man.
Like
Okay.
wife, husband. Like Duck, Duck, Goose.
Yeah.
So his second wife, there's different accounts on this. So he either murdered her by beating her to death after she couldn't produce an heir,
Oh.
or which is more likely, this one, is that she died of her complications from a miscarriage, and that just tore him up.
Sad.
Wait.
That's so
They
sad.
said that
Yeah.
he kicked her in the belly.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's...
From Egypt, their common theology was that she was waiting for him in the afterlife, so that made it seem like it was maybe just complication.
But like I said, his contemporaries did not like him, and so it wouldn't be uncommon for them to have, like, made this up to make him seem more of, like, villain. And so, like, that quote from earlier, he's most famous for being the emperor during the time that Rome burned. A lot of people thought that, like, Nero didn't care. The contemporary scholars even, like, said that, oh, Nero started the fire, like, it's his fault. But in reality...
I know that.
Obviously, we have to. It was always fire.
Okay.
Yeah, so Nero didn't start the fire. It's always burning.
Since the world was starting.
Yeah. So this was most likely some propaganda similar to the idea of Marie Antoinette saying let them eat cake. Like, she probably didn't say that, but it was just to, like, villainize him more. Like, he wasn't even in town when Rome burned. Like, he was out of town, and as soon as he found out, he, like, came back right away and was like, oh! And immediately started, like, we need new plans for the city, we need to rebuild, we need to make it great, we need to make it beautiful, make Rome great again.
Oh.
So my final segment is about Nero's death. I titled it, Suicide Really Never Is the Answer.
Huh.
So what happened is that the dude was still not respecting the Senate, and, you know, nothing good comes from that, and then there was, like, so many taxes put upon the people of the Roman Empire, and they just were not fans of it.
Yeah. The Roman Senate will not stand for being ignored like the U.S. Senate will.
Yeah.
Nope. Julius Caesar knows all about that.
Yeah.
Things definitely took a turn. Well, he found himself with no friends in, like, in his palace or whatever. Like, everyone had just, like, dipped. They were like, bye. And then he found out that the Senate was coming for him, and he was like, oh no. Because there was an order out that he was going to die because they were going to beat him to death as punishment. And so he was, like, on the lam, and he comes across these people who, like, kind of help him out. Yeah, so he thought they would kill him for sure. But their real plan was, like, they were going to, like, collect him and bring him back to the Senate and hope to just, like, kind of put him aside.
Like,
and,
dethrone him?
Yeah. Like, put him aside and, like, dissolve him, like, into, like, the Senate, basically.
Mm.
And wait until there was a new heir or, like, someone in the bloodline to be born. Because they really respected his bloodline. But instead, he pulled a straight-up Romeo and was like, oh, no! And killed himself.
Oh.
So yeah, he was just like a very polarizing figure.
Okay, so a couple weird things happened after he died.
It was this conspiracy.
So
Yeah.
Nero killed himself. Okay, and so the Senate and the people of the upper echelons, like, in the government were all like, yes, finally, this dude. However, contrary to a lot of villainizing historians at the time wrote, among the people, Nero was pretty popular. Especially because when Rome burned down, he put out a lot of programs to help people, send relief. He was out there, like, among the people. I mean, not everyone, probably, but...
Yeah, I'm sure it's more people outside of Rome and the empire who were like, why am I being taxed to rebuild Rome? My city needs roads too.
And, like, not even among his own people, but also abroad, especially the Greeks loved. He was just fascinated by them. They held off their Olympic Games so he could participate, like, 1,080 medals
Wow.
from the Olympic Games. And he actually gave them a tax exemption because he loved them so much. They were like, thank you!
He was like a weeb, but for Greece.
Yeah, exactly. So some people at the time found Nero's death really suspicious. Apparently, like, the location of it was really obscure, and it was really only recorded through word of mouth. Someone's servant saw the body and then told people, and that's how, like, the word of his death got out.
Their uncle's cousin's sister's roommate.
Yeah, so, you know, like that.
Servants.
He also didn't get a super fancy funeral, which tended to be custom for really popular emperors of the day, and that left a lot of them feeling like something was up. He also was not buried with the Julio-Claudian rulers, but was instead buried in the Henobarbi family tomb.
Right.
And so, to expand on that for further understanding, his father was Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, who was a Roman, his biological father, he was a Roman consul.
I was like, it's all going over my head at this point.
So Nero was only emperor because his mother married Emperor Claudius later on in life. Fun fact, Claudius was his mother's uncle. So she married her uncle.
A lot of incest about to come
Okay.
out.
I'm like, it's ancient Rome.
Claudius formally adopted Nero as his son. That was like his mother's terms to the marriage. Like, you have to formally adopt him. And Claude, he actually picked Nero to be the emperor instead of his own biological son.
Oh.
And to further solidify his claim to the empire, Nero married Claudius's daughter, so, cousin stepsister wife. Okay, so the fact that Nero was buried in his biological family's tomb is essentially like saying he wasn't part of the Claudius family, and therefore he wasn't a true emperor. People were all like, what? And so they're like, what in the world is happening right now? So a lot of them thought that Nero's death was faked. This didn't happen. Oh, but not everyone thought that his death was fake. Some people did think that it was real, but apparently there was a wide variety of prophecies surrounding the return of Nero that people were like, he will come back. So a lot of the prophecies said that he would return to his kingdom in the east. And some versions say that, like, it will be Jerusalem.
Sounds like another returning prophecy.
Hey.
This provided ample opportunity for people to take advantage of the situation, which is what Amanda will go over in a little bit. A lot of prophecy came from his natal chart. So a lot of people were looking at his horoscope for that week, and it was like, I'm back, boys. He's a Sagittarius, and I'm gonna go over a couple aspects of his horoscope, of his star sign and how that relates to this man. So, Sagittarius is like one of the biggest travelers of all the zodiac signs, and Greece, he loved them. This makes sense to me. Born to be able to transform their thoughts into concrete actions, and they will do anything to achieve their goals. So, after Rome burned down, a very controversial action he took was he used that cleared space where all these people's houses used to be like, I'm gonna build a golden palace here. And that's why he started taxing people more, but they were running out of money, so he started stealing religious treasures out of temples in order to fund the palace.
Not what we do.
That did not get him support. People were like, what?
That's how they do. That's how the Old Testament be.
So fun-loving Sagittarius enjoys making and spending money. See my previous comment. The ruling planet of Sagittarius is Jupiter, and that makes sense to me because he's Roman and an emperor, just like Jupiter. Sagittarius born are often impatient and tactless when they need to say or do something, which is just like divorcing your cousin's stepsister wife because she's barren, and then getting mad about it, getting bad publicity, and then being like, fine, I guess I'll kill her. This is the thing that really drew me into this conspiracy. When Rome caught fire in AD 64, Nero took this opportunity to blame it on the hated minority that the Roman people like to call Christians. So Roman politician and renowned historian Publius Cornelius Tacitus...
What's his nickname?
Pubes.
Okay.
Good old Puby.
Good old Puby wrote the following about Nero's scapegoats. So, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. Mockery of every sort was added to their deaths. Covered with the skins of beasts, they were torn by dogs and perished, or were nailed to crosses, or were doomed to the flames and burnt, to serve as nightly illumination when daylight had expired.
No. Damn. Was eloquent.
So,
Yeah.
some historians believe that the author of the Book of Revelation, which is the final book of the Bible, and also the author was a dude named John. I thought that was important to add in there. Took inspiration from the previously mentioned prophecies of the emperor's return, and he wrote Nero into the Christian narrative as the beast. That's one of their theories, because the writing of the Book of Revelation was really contemporary to all of these events that were occurring. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with the Bible, the Book of Revelation details basically the apocalypse. And the beast is this creature with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns. And he comes out of the ocean with this mortally wounded head. And then suddenly, miraculously, this head is healed. The dragon, which is identified as Satan, gives the beast power and authority for 42 months. Many people follow the beast, who then blasphemes God, wages war on the saints, and overcomes them. Later, a different creature has people make an image of the beast, breathes life into it, and forces people to don the mark of the beast, which is the number 666. And so, because of Nero being genuinely horrendous to early Christians and to all of these rumors and prophecies of his return, people genuinely believed that he was the Antichrist. Not only because of all of this returning stuff, but also some people believe that 666 is the numerical equivalent and value of the letters in Nero's name. And also, some people who, there's different interpretations of what the Book of Revelation is, whether it's something that's going to happen in the future, or if it's just a recording of things that were happening at the time, as a way to use analogies that the saints at the time were familiar with. And so some historians are just saying that this is a recording of all of the events that Nero was doing these terrible things to the saints. Mm-hmm. Some people have taken the name of Nero resurfaces and somewhat recently about weird last day, end of day stuff. In later years, new texts are written, such as the Ascension of Isaiah and the Syllabine oracles, which are non-canonical to the Bible, and they definitely make more explicit claims about Nero being the Antichrist. So it's in a lot of early Christian literature. Back to Amanda.
Yes, now we go over the impostors. So there are a total of 3 documented impostors. The first one came out of the Roman province of Achaia? I don't know. Or what I like to call Greece. Nero had been over there before his death, as Dahmer told us, because he loved to play in those Pan-Hellenic Games, which are basically the Olympics, and one of the contemporary historians of the time threw some major shade at the ancient Greeks. He saying that the whole phenomenon of this impostor was due to the gullibility and restive nature of the Greeks. Basically saying that the Greeks are just dumb, and that's why they believe this guy was the, reincarnation or, return of Nero. This guy, we don't have his name, but he wanted to try out the pirate life, and it wasn't for him.
And the reason he failed at the pirate life was because Nero's successor, Galba, caught wind that there was a fake Nero running around. So this guy sends future governor Lucius Norris Calpurnus Espirnes to go take out this imposter.
He's living that pirate life, this first imposter. And then our boy Lucius is coming at him. They have this little battle. The pseudo Nero's we're gonna board the ship and tell him what's what. And then this guy's you're not telling me anything. Cuts the dude's head off, and then sends it on a tour through Asia and then on to Rome. And then our second imposter is an Asiatic named Trentus Maximus.
I knew there'd be a Maximus.
Yes, how could there not? Who apparently liked to sing, accompanied by the lyre. He was actually pretty popular and a great impersonator because his following wanted to restore him to Rome. But can you guess what happened to him?
He died.
Yeah. He was found and executed.
Oh.
And then our third and final imposter came out 20 years after Nero's death. So all these other ones were right after, within a few months or a couple of years. Now he was very popular among Parthians who lived in modern day Iraq, Iran, and a little bit of Syria and Saudi Arabia, from what I can tell. And he was so popular that almost started a war. People were no, dude, this is Nero and he needs to be emperor. And they were but no.
They're he's just some crazy guy.
This is Crazy Dan Maximus.
But, yeah, and then I guess evidence came out that he wasn't actually Nero and it didn't happen for him.
It didn't happen. He was probably executed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but basically, moral of the story is ancient Rome was a soap opera.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say about that.
Conspiracy theories be crazy.
Okay, well, thanks to everyone for their research and all of their time spent on this. You guys can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Movie Clubcast and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. See you next movie night, and don't forget, there are 68 days till Halloween.
Bye!
And today you might notice that we're missing Megan, and unfortunately she's not with us because I kind of made it sound like she's
You
dead.
did make it sound like she was
She's
dead.
no longer
with
with
us.
us.
Upsetting spaghetti. Upsetting spaghetti.
Okay. And you may notice that Megan has not been mentioned. That's because she's not with us. And
Still dead.
okay.
The
Okay.
blooper where Megan dies.
And specifically, I guess Tania Heed is how you would pronounce her name.
Tanya Head.
Oh,
Wow,
Tanya.
that was Rongo Bongo right there.
Tan, but her name is like Tania. So
That's how you spell Tanya.
Instead of with a Y.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there's a lot of ways to spell Tanya.
There are.
So
Fair. And who knows, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's the other way. I did hear it pronounced several times the way I just said it, but I don't know. I haven't met the woman. And it's made up name anyway. We'll soon find out.
So the conspiracy theory that we're doing tonight is 9/11 / Tanya Heed conspiracy theories. Tanya Head? She's like Spanish.
Because he really liked her wife. No. He really liked...
Just stop, because you're going to have to re-say it anyway.
This is getting on level. She had a wife.